So for me, Weirdo Prog is just all the things that won't fit into other genres. So they don't fit into any kind of rock genres, although they have some kind of rock affiliations in the instrumentation. They don't fit into library. They don't fit into experimental. So by default, they go into my prog section. I really don't have any classic prog from the 70s, but it's a catch-all. There's post rock in there, orchestral pop, things like that.
Yeah, or I guess, I take a very expansive view of what prog is. I mean, I also have a couple of Yes records, so I just tried to choose records that struck me as decidedly weird in one way or another, particularly weird exemplars of whatever category they belong to. Um,
Wait a
I didn't
second,
really,
sorry. I've lost my prog.
uh-oh,
I can't find my prog section.
you find your records?
I found one of them had wound up in jazz. There's a sort of technical virtuosity that's common to both, and an appreciation for weird time signatures and keys and things like that. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, I picked the Return of the Drudy Column, which doesn't really fit into post-punk, even though in 1979, when this came out, it could easily chronologically fit into post-punk.
Yeah.
But it's the project of Vinnie Riley, who's a guitar player, who is very distinctive in just the way he comes up with melodies. And it's not post-punk because it's too bucolic and stately and regimented.
It's
And I think he
pretty.
has a guitar style, which is a phase-shifted guitar that he works in a very anomalous way. He makes up distinct melodies. He works with and without rhythm, with both acoustic drums and drum machines. And it's sort of a combination of classical music, the way it's composed, and jazz. But it does have that rock underpinning, even though the bass is really understated, and the drums as well. And it's on Factory Records. It came out in 1979. And my second choice is, if I say this right, Dufy, which is
Oh yeah.
this is Science and Wisdom from 1982. It looks like two women there, but really those are two English dudes that met in the pop band The and created a shared fictional history of how their mothers had both died tragically, one in a suicide, and one father was out of the picture, and one father was hit by a car and became a paraplegic. So it's based on this sort of remorse and sadness in their life. They describe this as ethereal free pop. It's largely instrumental, but what brought them together on this project, here's the back, there they are, is their love of singing. So there is some singing, there is some found sounds that are mixed in, and they have a lot of literary references like Aldous Huxley, The Wizard of Oz, Rimbaud. And within that shared fictive history, they have come up with somewhat of an opera about their sadness. It's very controlled the way it's composed and recorded, the orchestrations. There's nothing really random about it, even though it sounds very organic. And last but not least, this shares a lot of tonal aspects with the other two. It's more of a meandering record. It's called Woo, It's Cozy Inside. These are two brothers that have done home recordings with lots of effects. And primarily concerned with the groove, which creates a sort of wooziness. And there's something that is random that's running through this, just sort of accidents, happy accidents in this synthesized sounds. One brother plays a violin, one brother plays a clarinet, and they have these electronic jams that are full of pulsing sort of groove rhythms. It's calming and relaxed. It was reissued on Drag City a few years ago. It's not really cosmic music, but it has that sort of quality, which is airy and ethereal. And they considered it music for meditation and yoga. I won't hold that against them. And those are my three of Weirdo Prog because they don't fit in. And I still love them. Okay, it's Chris up from the lower deck.
My first choice is Rush's Caress of Steel. This record from 1975. It's Rush's third album, and it's an incredibly strange record. Rush is, of course, a polarizing band, like hugely popular, but man, did a lot of people hate Rush too. And I think this record is pretty polarizing in and of itself. They started out as like you could hear the Led Zeppelin in all of their songs. You could hear it on the first two records for sure. And this is when they started. There were some proggy elements, I guess, on their second record, Fly By Night, which is an awesome record. But this is the one where they started getting really ambitious, and it doesn't quite work, all the way through, which is part of what makes it strange. And they've got they've got two really long songs with a whole bunch of different parts. And the parts don't cohere terribly well, but some of the parts are really, really good. Especially on this song called The Necromancer. Most of it is actually this, it sounds like a proto doom song. It's very cool. But then they've also got like these random, like these goofy, like left field sort of, just standard 70s hard rock songs. There's a song called I Think I'm Going Bald, which that's just a weird fucking thing to write a song about, I mean, it sits uneasily next to a song called The Necromancer, it seems to me. So anyway, strange record, cool record, definitely worth listening to if you like Rush. My second choice is Acid Mother's Temples. This is Pink Lady Lemonade. This song, like Pink Lady Lemonade, I think it's probably their most famous song, and it's definitely in most of the many variations I've heard on it over the years. It's a pretty tuneful, song-y kind of song. But Acid Mother's Temple, the sort of I kind of chose this because they've been around forever, and they're one of those bands who have apparently recorded every time they've ever played, and they've released most of those sessions in one form or another. There's a million Acid Mother Temple CDs out there, and they all have these nonsensical names. Like they'll name something with a reference to Pink Floyd or to King Crimson or to Black Sabbath, and then you'll listen to it and you say, well, I don't hear any Black Sabbath on here, or something like that. All their stuff, some of their stuff is noisier, maybe closer, almost to free jazz or something, and some of it's more like jammy, heavy psych, and this record is definitely on in the latter category. This is like a jammy, sort of groovy record. Not all that weird, but they're a weird band. And if you ever get the chance to see them live, I would recommend it. They're fun. Okay, and my final. This is Oranzi Pazuzu's 2016 album. I don't know how to pronounce it. Vara Taliha, maybe something like that. Anyway, they're a Finnish black metal band, or they used to be black metal. It's been a long time since they felt particularly constrained, by black metal orthodoxy. I don't know if they ever did. You could choose. I think they put out 3 albums since this record. They're all pretty proggy, and they're all pretty weird. Their newest one from last year has a ton of synth on it. It feels more like a krautrock record then it feels like a metal record. This one definitely feels like a metal record. As I said, it's not an orthodox metal record at all. There's a lot of prog in here, and it's just a very cool record. And once again, great band live. If you get the chance to see them, I would recommend it. And that's it. What do you got, Eric?
Okay, well, I think I've got the most conventional selections, or perhaps not. Let's see where this goes. First up, we've got The Polite Force by Egg. Egg was founded in 1968, I believe, and lasted until 73 or 74, releasing 3 albums in that span of time. And they've got a pretty stripped down sort of cast of musicians, drums, bass, and organ, and they are doing stuff that sounds like, Bach for the 20th century, but at the same time, they sort of venture off into these doom-like territories at points. And there's the first song on this album, A Visit to Newport Hospital, has lyrics too, and it's kind of excursion into the darker side of things. They were part of the Canterbury scene, and I think the this cover image, which is not going to be very distinct on the screen there, sums up everything that they're about. If it's looks like it was a photograph taken of something being reflected in a bent metal surface, and that's about what they sound like when they're not Baroque excursions. So The Polite Force by Egg. That's item number one. Item number two will be the ever great, titanic, colossal, gigantic Magma,
Magma.
founded by Christian Vander in France, in Paris, France, in 1970. And these guys should require no introduction, but probably do, because, the whole world is glutted with so much information and data out there that you can't get the signal through the noise. So they dressed up in cloaks and had these elaborate, well, they're still around, so I should speak in the present tense. So these guys, they're basically like they look like they're some sort of doomsday cult, and they sound a bit like it too. Folks in cloaks with whole choruses sort of chanting in a made up language. Everything they've done, with the possible exception of some stuff in the 80s, which is interesting, if nothing else, but not necessarily as successful. Uh, Pretty much everything they've done, they did in the 70s is worth your while. I chose this particular album because it has the immense De Futura on it, which is a sprawling epic. How long is it? Does it say? Yeah, 18 minutes, 18 minutes of cosmic warfare, basically. It sounds like the hostile takeover of another planet by magma spacecraft. Um, and just an absolutely killer repetitive bass line that just throbs and pulses like, some kind of death ray intent on annihilating your bucolic little planet. So this is hard prog with a sort of mean spirit. So that's item number two. Elsewhere on the album, there are more peaceful passages, but De Futura, the whole aside to Dynamite. All right, and then finally got this is the sort of the real weirdo record here. It's Melodic Energy Commission, Migration of the Snails. And this is an album that actually has a former Hawkwind
Hawkwind.
yeah, Del Detmer is here with some buddies up in British Columbia, making this strange concept album about gastropods moving from one place to another. And it sounds like the snails are actually migrating on something like the astral plane. You've got all kinds of wacky space age instrumentation here. Lots of the the synth presence is strong, but also theremin and then more uh, traditional forms of instrument used to sort of odd effect, however, like flute with and and most of the vocals are yeah are female and kind of done in a sort of folk singery vein, but it actually works because it's sort of there in the capacity of like a collage. I mean, it's like there are all these heterogeneous types of sound and texture that are woven together, and that's why strays from. I don't think it ever would have started in the straight up prog category, although probably there wouldn't have been much of a choice to put it anywhere else. But it definitely winds up with an emphasis on the weirdo. So item number three, melodic energy commission.
I have that record and I put it in my prog section.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good. Affirmed. Think about it.
Psych freak out.
Does he
Like
wear overalls?
Shot his toe off by accident when he was drunk.
pure rasp.
And when they lock into a groove, man, magma,
The world is a problem. So really good for the muso.
the muso.
With the exploding of the head,
All the scattered little bits of skull and gray matter are
no head.
Bullet,
ominous.
horny records.
Electric presentation.